And welcome back. Turning now to my political panel, I'm joined by the Fin Review senior correspondent Aaron Patrick and the Australian's political reporter Richard Ferguson. Welcome, both of you.
Good evening, Sharri.
Thanks, Sharri.
Let's start with the big news, the major news. The UK is heading back into lockdown in what is being described as a third wave of the virus. Here's Boris Johnson making that announcement today.
The huge exponential growth in the number of patients, by no means all of them elderly, by the way, would mean that doctors and nurses would be forced to choose which patients to treat, who would get oxygen and who wouldn't, who would live and who would die. And doctors and nurses would be forced to choose between saving COVID patients and non-COVID patients.
Richard, what went wrong with the European approach to the virus, do you think?
I think that they didn't go into lockdown quick enough, and I think that they exited lockdown far too quickly. They've kind of made both decisions wrong on both ends. And this has been especially the problem with Boris Johnson. You know, he had resisted, he wanted to go for herd immunity, then he finally had to go into lockdown, and then when it came out, he went full slaver, gave everybody, you know, vouchers to go to restaurants. And then, obviously this lockdown is now a national lockdown, but of course Scotland went into lockdown about 3 weeks ago. Manchester and most of Northern England went into lockdown 3 weeks ago. So the rules have been very confusing. Plus, he obviously had his chief advisor, Dominic Cumming, break the rules by travelling very, very far to see family. And he was never punished. And therefore, a lot of the British people thought, well, you know, if Boris Johnson's chief advisor can do what he wants, why do we have to follow the coronavirus rules? So it's really been disaster from go to woe for Boris Johnson. And talking of predictions, Sharri, there is a lot of palpable anger coming out of Tory MPs in Britain at the moment. It's been bubbling for a while, but it's got very, very bad. People are furious, according to reports in the Times and the Telegraph and the Daily Mail tonight, including senior cabinet ministers. I would be very, very unsure that Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister of Britain next year.
Absolutely fascinating. Aaron, what's your take on this? I mean, it's just a reminder how lucky we are in Australia with our natural island, you know, isolation and borders. But do you think this shows that the approach that the world seem to have chosen of living with the virus is actually very difficult, and this could extend, you know, if there isn't a vaccine, for years?
It is. It's really hard to convince people when, you know, tens of thousands of people, new cases are showing up every day, that you should be able to live with this. And we have this interesting paradox here where, because we've almost eliminated COVID in Australia, no community transmissions today for the first time in 5 months, means that we're going to have to stay isolated longer than we otherwise would, because it's just so out of control in Europe and the US that we can't realistically open travel to there. So perhaps, you know, we'll go to New Zealand first for travel, and then hopefully places like Singapore and Japan and Taiwan, maybe even China. You know, China's probably a pretty safe place to open. But in a way, we're going to suffer from our success in terms of links to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Now, this next story I've been absolutely fascinated with today. I've absolutely loved it. Glenn Greenwald, you remember he broke the Snowden story, became a household name. He's a journalist. He then co-founded a news website called The Intercept. He has now, over the past couple of days, sensationally quit the website. He's accused them of censoring an article he wrote unless he removed criticisms of Joe Biden, and he even appeared on Fox News about this. Have a quick look.
The core overarching premise, the reason it was created, was to ensure that journalists would always have complete journalistic independence and editorial freedom, never have to pull punches journalistically or pay homage to pieties because of the preferences, the partisan or ideological preferences of editors or of anybody else. That was the core founding idea and vision. And then that is what makes it so amazing that at the very outlet that I co-created, that was built on my reputation, my credibility, my journalistic accomplishments, then tried to intervene to censor me 6 days before an election because I wanted to publish reporting and analysis about the evidence that raises serious questions about the conduct of the candidate that all of the editors at that outlet vehemently and enthusiastically support.
Richard, I mean, the beauty of this is that it's not just you know, the right. It's not just the New York Post that's being censored here by Twitter. I mean, Glenn is clearly a figure of the left, and not even he was allowed free speech by his own publication that he co-created. I mean, you know, what has gone wrong in this election campaign?
I think that we are very lucky to live in Australia, where there is a far more acceptance in individual publications of a kind of a diversity of views. I mean, especially at our newspaper, at the Australian SHARRI, you know that there's a lot of our senior journalists and senior commentators have very different views on Trump and Biden, and we show them off as much because we like the contest of ideas. That is not the way it happens in America. America is just so tribal, and I do think that there have been instances where Joe Biden, who, you know, compared to Donald Trump, probably looks like a saint, but there have been a variety of stories where he has been censored or not taken as seriously as it would have been with Donald Trump. Think about very historical sexual assault allegations, think of stuff on Ukraine, and then the kind of, you know, censoring of Glenn Greenwald kind of feeds into this narrative that a certain section of the press in America will not allow any criticism of Biden. Now, I actually think that is not so much, it's not just being anti-Trump, which I think a lot of these places are, but I think it is an overreaction to Hillary Clinton, where they went very hard on Hillary Clinton on the email server. They treated her like an incumbent, and a lot of the left went, the reason Hillary Clinton lost is because you went far too hard on Hillary Clinton and you weren't hard enough on Donald Trump. And as usual in America, overreactions have led to one way. I think it's the same with Twitter and Facebook, who are accused of being very anti-Clinton, allowing Russian disinformation. And now they're gone completely the other way, absolutely disgracefully censoring the New York Post.
Yeah. What's your take on this, Aaron?
Look, I've read some of the traffic, and I've worked as an editor and a writer, and I haven't never seen that kind of level of, shall we say, intense conversation between a reporter and an editor. Look, I have a slightly different view. I think Greenwald is from the far left. He has his obsession with Biden and the centrist Democrats who he's out to destroy. And as far as I can tell, there has to be a moment where editors can pull up writers if they are publishing unsubstantiated allegations, and that could possibly have been the case here.
Yeah, okay. Look, we are almost out of time, Aaron. I'm going to stay on you very quickly. You know, devastating news today that Sean Connery has passed away. What's your favourite Sean Connery scene or moment?
It's the Hunt for Red October, great 1990 Cold War film, and I really liked it, particularly because Sean Connery, so well known for his Scottish accent, just like Richard here, played a Russian captain of a submarine very well against type, and I thought it was a thrilling, brilliant movie because of Sean Connery. Yeah.
Richard, I know you're Scottish, but we literally have run out of time, so I can't get your favourite Sean Connery moment
Scotland's
tonight.
favourite son, and Scottish people are silenced once again.
We'll have to get it another time or tweet it afterwards. Thank you both so much for your time.
Good night,
Thanks, SHARRI.